In this video, we'll discuss investigating workplace injuries. Specifically, we are going to look at three types of injuries. Contact injuries, which includes burns, lacerations, bruises, and contamination. Overexertion, which causes strain and muscle injury. And slips, trips, and falls, which can cause broken bones, bruises, and loss of consciousness. First, we'll look at contact injuries. We begin with an outline. This is a proactive cause map, which means that we're going to be looking at the different ways that contact injuries could occur rather than at one specific incident that did occur. Here we capture the nature of the injury, which is a burn, laceration, bruise, or contamination. This could be on any part of the body. Because this is a proactive map, we just capture the when as proactive. We'll look at one specific facility that's part of our organization. And we also want to capture the task that is being performed when the injury occurs. Because this is a proactive map, we could have many different tasks that are being performed when the injury occurs. The safety goal is impacted because of the potential for burns, lacerations, bruises, and contamination. The labor goal is impacted because of the potential for days off work. We can capture frequency information based on similar injuries at this facility this year and cost information for each incident if it's available. Once we've filled out the outline, we can begin with the cause map. We begin with the safety goal being impacted because of burn, laceration, bruise, or contamination. Now, this burn, laceration, bruise, and contamination is also the cause of the impacted labor goal for the potential for days off work. We ask why questions to fill in the cause map. Here, the burn, laceration, bruise, or contamination is caused by contact with an object, material, or energy, and inadequate personal protective equipment. The contact with an object, material, or energy occurs because the employee is in the area, and the object, material, or energy are also in the area. We're going to look at why the employee is in the area in more detail. The employee is in the area, possibly because the employee is performing a task. When we reach this point in the cause map, we need to look at why the task is performed this way. And what I mean by this is if you have a task that frequently ends up with employees being injured, it may be worthwhile to consider seeing if the task can be replaced by automated equipment or by video monitoring. The employee may be in the area, going through the area rather than performing a task in the area, in which case the question should be asked, why were they there? Employees are frequently found in areas because they're using them as shortcuts between two different areas, or because this area is on the way between two tasks that they need to perform. Now we'll also look at why the object, material, and energy were in the area. The object may have been required for the task, or the object may have been left in the area. Either way, the question needs to be asked, why was the object there? And if the object was part of the contributing to the employee injury, there may need to be some discussion on better protection for the object, or if the object can be left in a different area. Once we have our cause map completed and we've looked at these different issues, we can come up with some solutions. Some solutions that facilities have come up with to try and minimize contact injuries are to replace the task that the employee is being performed. Sometimes the employee has been replaced with automated equipment or with the use of a video monitor, so that rather than actually going to the area where there's risk for contact injuries, the employee can watch it from the safety of the video monitor. Also, if the area is being used as a shortcut, it may want to be roped off if you are having frequent employee injuries there. If the employee was in the area because the area is found between task areas, it may be necessary to move the task areas to keep employees out of the area that has the risk for contact injury. If the object or material was left in the area and did not actually belong there, you may want to put a return to sign on the object to ensure that the object is kept in the proper location. And last but not least, if you are having some issues where you're frequently getting contact injuries, you may want to consider additional personal protective equipment for your employees to minimize the risk of injuries. Now we'll go on to our second type of injury. These are overexertion injuries. Again, strain and muscle injuries could be in any part of the body, but these are generally found in the back, legs, and arms. Again, this is a proactive map for a given facility. Generally, the task that is being performed when overexertion injuries occur is lifting. The safety goal is impacted because of the potential for strain and muscle injury. The labor goal is impacted because of the potential for days off work. We can also capture frequency and cost information regarding similar incidents at this facility if that information is available. We begin our cause map much in the way that we did before. The safety goal is impacted because of strain or muscle injury. That strain and muscle injury also causes the impact to the labor goal with the potential for days off work. Strain and muscle injuries are caused by overexertion. Overexertion is stress exceeding strength. The overexertion is caused by an employee lifting some given amount of weight and having an inadequate lifting capability to perform that lift without injury. We're going to look at the employee lifting the weight in more detail. An employee is presumably lifting some weight because it's part of the task that employee is expected to perform. In addition, that employee may not have had assistance available to safely complete the lift. Also look at the capability portion of the equation. Inadequate lifting capability may have been caused by inadequate personal protective equipment or caused by an incorrect lifting method. We can feed this additional detail back into our cause map, and now that we've done that, we can add in some solutions. Again, these are just some solutions that some facilities have found success with in reducing their overexertion injury rate. One way to reduce risk of overexertion injuries is to remind employees of their lifting limits, trying to ensure that they won't lift higher than a safe amount. Another is to provide a lifting device in the area where the lifts are being made, or require assistance for the lift. Maybe some personal protective equipment in the form of lifting aids that reduces the risk of overexertion injuries. And additionally, the correct lifting method should always be specified, especially for heavy lifts that are taking place as part of a necessary task. With that, we'll move on to our last category of injury, and these are injuries that result from slips, trips, and falls. Generally, the nature of the injury resulting from slips, trips, and falls is broken bones, bruises, and loss of consciousness. It can be to any part of the body, but there's especially the risk of head and back injuries resulting from slips, trips, and falls. This is another proactive map. The difference here is that we will be talking about injuries that do result from slips, trips, and falls. We're going to look at a given facility within our organization, and pretty much any task could be being performed while these type of injuries occur. Our safety goal is impacted because of the potential for a broken bone, bruise, loss of consciousness, and our labor goal is impacted because of the potential for days off work. As with our other outlines, we can capture the frequency based on similar injuries this year and cost data if that is available to us. We begin with the cause map. The safety goal is impacted because of broken bone, bruise, or loss of consciousness. These injuries also cause the impact to the labor goal, which is the potential for days off of work. Broken bone, bruise, loss of consciousness occurs from an employee striking the floor or another object as the result of that employee falling. Now, in addition, the employee falls and has an inadequate hold on the equipment. What this means is if an employee falls and is not holding on to, say, a handrail, they have a much higher risk of injury than if they did have some sort of hold on the equipment that they were on. I'm going to add more detail to the employee fall cause. An employee may fall because the employee slips, or the employee trips, or the employee becomes unbalanced on moving equipment. We'll add more detail to each of these types of falls. An employee generally slips because they are in an area that is slippery. They may have inadequate traction on their shoes, and the employee is in the area. The employee in the area is something that came up in one of our previous cause maps. And so what we need to look at here is if the employee is performing a task, why is it done that way that could result in personnel injury? And if the employee is going through the area, why were they there, and is this appropriate? We'll go back, and now we're going to look at some detail on the employee trips portion of the map. An employee trips, potentially because there's an object in their walking path. It does not have to be large. The employee may be unable to see the object, potentially because they're carrying too many objects. Or they're not paying attention. And, as discussed before, the employee is in the area, which again brings us to the same questions that we've been looking at whenever we find an employee in an area that has resulted in an injury. One last type of fall, an employee becoming unbalanced on moving equipment. This occurs when an employee is riding on moving equipment, which may either be required as part of a task, or the employee might be using the equipment as transport around the facility. In addition, there's inadequate safety devices used on the moving equipment. Now we know that because if the employee fell off the equipment and injured themselves, then the safety devices that were used were inadequate, whether that was a seatbelt, handrail, or nothing at all. Now if we step back here, we've added some detail to the employee falls. We're now going to add some detail on the inadequate hold on the equipment. Safety equipment may be unavailable wherever the employee is located at the time of the injury, or the employee might be unable to use the safety equipment. This is especially common when an employee is carrying too many objects in their hand, thus they can't hold onto a safety railing or guide rope or other safety equipment that may be available. Ordinarily, we would use the cause map to put the solutions on. However, the cause map for the slips, trips, and falls injuries is a little bit difficult to fit on PowerPoint. But what I have done is captured some of the action items or solutions associated with some of the causes we've discussed. For example, some organizations have began using non-skid or grading to prevent areas from becoming slippery, provided or replaced shoes for employees to ensure that they have adequate traction, replaced tasks when employees are becoming injured performing tasks, roped off areas to prevent areas from being used as shortcuts, moved task areas to prevent access to area that was found between two tasks, removed objects from walking paths to prevent tripping, and provided carts for transporting materials. And this both allows employees to be able to see better and frees their hands to use the safety devices such as handrails. I hope you've learned something about investigating workplace injuries today and the 3 types of injuries that we've covered. There are more examples and videos available at our website at www.thinkreliability.com. Thank you for your time.